Okay, testing. All right, everyone. There's no one logged on yet, which is not surprising. Wasn't expecting that. So I'm going to be starting our presentation now. If you log in later on, and I'll keep an eye out for who do log into the live stream, we will be recording this and publishing it up as it is, like we did with our previous one. So if you're having trouble hearing, just send me a message via the live chat. If you've got any questions, write them down. And you can certainly put them through to me in an email if you watch the recording of this, or if you do get online, you can send me through questions on the live chat. Not that there's much point saying that because I'm the only one watching at the moment. So there's three parts to this I think three parts to this presentation. I'm actually going to go through a presentation screen, explain a few things. We're going to show you through our website where you can find information, importantly, into helping us build the BMBA program. And there is a third part. Oh, that's right. There's some access through that website for some business plan presentations. So, we'll just go through those step by step and then go on from there. So what I'm going to do first is just get up that presentation I was speaking about. Windows, getting better with doing these. I'm still average on it. Hopefully that should now be seen. Yeah, there we are on the live stream. So I will just double check that we're okay. I want to make sure that, we are. Beautiful. All right, so I'll go through this. So this is our BMBA presentation, making our Templar Warrior program better for your child, which is what we're all about. Whether boys, girls, younger, older, we want to give your child the best basketball experience we can and make their basketball and teach them the skills to help them be better basketballers and hopefully join BMBA teams and learn how to play the game together in the coming years. So there's one. So this is where we are currently right now. So roughly we've got 30 participants in our programs across all the sessions. We have one under 12 boys team that is playing in the Dandenong Basketball Association. They're coming towards the end of their season. You all should have by now got emails out about we've got a registration page opened up for next season. So if anybody wants to play, we're looking to field at this stage an under 12 boys and an under 14 boys team. We don't quite have enough girls and the participants in our training programs to form a girls team. But if there was enough girls that appeared, we would love to field a girls team. So like I said there, we've got one under 12 boys team currently, another team potentially on the way. That's from our mainly from our Friday night session, the 6 to 7 or 6 to 7:30 session. There's a bunch of kids that are in that, and a number of parents have asked me about joining a team. So we hope to form a team out of that. So by the time we start term 4, we're hoping to have entered an under 12 and an under 14 boys team into the Dandenong Basketball Association's domestic competitions. All right. And currently we're enjoying limited court access at Stonington Sports Centre and De La Salle. So at Stonington Sports Centre, we've got the one court on the Friday between 6 and 9. And we've got one court on the Saturday between 5 and 8. And at De La Salle, we actually have that on Wednesdays between 4:30 and 8 o'clock. And we also actually have it on Fridays. So we don't use it Fridays at the moment, but we do pay for it because historically, if you've got court space and you give it up, another club eats it up. So we're keeping that up just for when we do grow. So we're going to need that extra court space. So sadly, we've got to pay for it while we don't have anyone in there. But we're hoping in the next 12 months, that's all going to change. So that would, we think, be a worthwhile investment. So that's where we currently are now. We're not a big program by any stretch of the imagination. We certainly hope to be within 12 months, far bigger than that, because the greater number you've got, the more participants you've got, the more things you can offer, the more programs you can run, the more competitions you can do, the better we can make it for your child. So slide 2. So here we go. Over the next 6 months. Now, we had an interesting meeting with Stonington, a representative from Stonington Council. So our court access will grow as time goes on. So we will be going through, for example, at Stonington, still with the one court over term 4 of this year. We'll be applying. There's an expression of interest coming out, and we're lodging that. You've got to do that once every 12 months. So we're going to be asking for one court in term 4. We're not expecting huge growth going in term 4. With the plans that we're going to share with you tonight, we're hoping for significant growth at the start of next year. So we'll be applying for 2 courts in term 4. Plus, we're also going to be getting space at Orong Romanus Recreation Centre in Paran. That's in Stonington. So we'll get space there to be running some comps and training programs out of on this all-day Saturday, hopefully. The hope is by term 3, which will be our next winter season, we'll be starting our first competitions, and we'll need 3 courts by then. And by this time next year, we'll be asking for 4 courts in the time spans we've got. Okay. So in the next 6 months, so we'll have one under 12 boys team, one under 14 boys team, as I just said, in Dandenong. But what we hope to do is over the next 6 months, grow from 30 participants to 100 participants. And that's really important, which we'll go over later in this presentation. And as we're doing this, so we go from 30 to 100, so that means there's 70 more participants. So while those teams are playing at Dandenong, the under 14 and under 12 boys teams, from any new players that come in, we'll be forming new teams. So that then will help us increase our court access at Stonington Sports Centre and also at De La Salle. We hope to be playing games out of De La Salle as well as Stonington, because you're limited with games at Stonington because we don't have huge space. And obviously we want to keep training, which is another reason we've kept that Friday night sessions at training. So increasing in participants, we're going to need to spill over into other courts. You're going to only fit 20 players per court on any given court. So if we had, say, 100 kids on one night, you would need between we can fit in one night 40 kids on a court, so we'd need 2.5 courts. So we'd need 2 courts at Stonington and say 1 court at De La Salle, which means we're then employing 3 coaches. So like I said, we're going to be getting the new access at Orong Romanus. And what we want to be doing in the next 6 months, and sooner the better, we want to form the Stonington and Districts Basketball Association under the BMBA Basketball Proprietary Limited banner. Now, that is really important to us going forward because with Stonington Council, the access to their courts, if you actually are a specifically Stonington Association, Sports Association, you get priority in their bookings. It's just the way they do it. So that is certainly something we'll be developing over the next 6 months, 12 months, 2 years as we go forward. So like I said, guys, if you're logging in and you've got any questions on any of this, just send them through on the Q&A, and once I finish the presentation on the live chat, I'll answer them. So in 6 months' time, we'll have gone from summer season. So the summer season is term 4 this year and term 1 of next year. The winter season is term 2 and 3. So over the next winter season, so that previous slide was over this summer season, we want to grow it again to 150 participants. So go from 100 to add an extra 50. And then we start forming our first under 12 competitions and hopefully our first under 14 competitions. Now, to do that, to form a competition, you would need at least 4 teams. And in those 4 teams, you'd need 8 players. So you'd need 32 players. So to form, say, an under 12 and under 14 boys competition, you would need 62 players. To form a girls competition, just had something to eat, you would need another 62 players, roughly. That can be a bit flexible. So, for example, you could have 7 kids per team. So those numbers go down a little bit. So overall, we want to grow it to 150 participants so we can form 4 teams. Now, that 4-team number is really important. One, you have to – I've got the hiccups. I'm sorry, guys. Once you form 4 teams, you can start a competition. Once you start a competition, it then becomes very appealing for other clubs and programs and schools to join up. So we can get schools that currently play and play ball or look to play and play ball come and join our competitions. Oh, God, I'm so sorry, everyone. You're just going to have to forgive me here. So when we form some competitions, our intention is to make those competitions much, much better than what play ball offer or other domestic associations offer. And they will not jump across until we've got some competitions going. So why would you take the risk of pulling your team out of a currently established competition into one that you're not sure is established? If we can form 4 teams minimum in those age groups, then clubs will have much more incentive to come and join us, and those 4-team competitions become 16-team competitions, 8-team competitions, maybe 2 divisions, and away we go, which, again, we'll go through on this. Once you are forming your own teams, once you have established your own competitions, you then can pick your best players from those competitions to form rep teams. Now, in the winter season, those rep teams will be the teams that also go play in Dandenong. So the idea would be to have our own competitions through Stonington, but then to select rep teams to go play in the Dandenong Basketball Association in the winter season to prepare for a proper rep season commencing next summer season. So in obviously getting 150 participants, again, we'll be increasing court access at Stonington and at DLRSL. So remember what I said, where we go from 1 court to 2 courts to 2 courts plus a wrong by next year. By the third term 2 or 3, we would be looking at 3 courts at Stonington because there's only, again, limited capacity. In a 3-hour period, the maximum amount of games you're going to be able to play is 3. So even if you grow it, you're not going to be able to fit a lot of games in there. So courts like Arong, Romanus and DLRSL are important to us to be able to get more games going over a weekend. So now, when we say 150 participants, that might sound a lot, but most domestic clubs could have anything between 200 to 500. I know some domestic clubs that have, for example, 1,000 kids. So we'll show you a little bit later on in our marketing and strategy that we've got planned. But if we can put some marketing out there, as an example, when I was at Oakley Basketball Association and we moved into GSAC, we very quickly went from 70 participants, and in a couple of years later, we had 500. So these growth numbers are not fact. They're not fiction. They can be fact because we've lived this reality. So you've just got to get word of mouth. You've got to get some marketing. You've got to do all that. And this is one reason we're sharing this with you, because you guys could potentially help us. And we'll show you later why that benefits. So in 12 months' time, so we're coming to where we are now. We're moving from a winter season that we say have established at Stonington into a summer season. Now, if we've established under 10, under 12, under 14 competitions over that winter period, then other clubs will start coming in. If you get other clubs, like I just said, come in, or schools or programs, you can very easily double your numbers. So we're talking about 150 participants. We've done a conservative increase from 150 to 250. So if we have 4 teams and we get 4 other clubs to put in one team, you just double your numbers. So we've put in under 16 competitions next summer, because a lot of the boys in the under 14 competitions would be too old. And if our marketing takes hold, for example, we'd also have some under 10 kids. We'd like to be able to give them a game as well. As I said, the invitation and recruitment of other clubs to join our competitions will naturally increase our size and increase our ability to form more competitions. At that point, at the end of the winter season, as I said before, the consolidation of our first rep teams to play either in a VB rep comp, and that should be our own BMBA representative competitions, will be able to happen. So the BMBA right now is the Bobman Basketball Academy, but as time goes on, the BMBA, that acronym, is going to represent the broader Melbourne Basketball Association. And if we can get enough clubs interested, we will be forming our own rep competitions on a Friday night. So it can be running parallel to Victorian Junior League, because they are restrictive on how many teams and clubs can go in there. So if we can't get into that, we'll be forming our own competitions. We're already talking to people about that. So one way or the other, we're going to have our own rep teams, and it could be either starting in an established Basketball Victoria competition, or it will be through our own competition. And the BMBA Basketball Proprietary Limited will be the managing group of that. So we'll have a definite advantage in moving with that going forward. Again, that's going to require increased court access at Stonington Sports Centre, De La Salle and Orong. Now, once we're getting up to 250 participants, we're getting very close to capacity at Stonington, Orong and even De La Salle. It's about 300 to 350. So we'll go to the next stage. So in 18 months, we're moving on to 2 years. We're now at capacity, 350 participants. The goal would be then, because don't forget, we're getting more teams from other clubs, other schools, other programs, and to have a minimum of, say, 6-team competitions in under 10s right through to under 18s. Now, we are hoping to be able to recruit older kids in there, but even if we can't, other programs will bring their under 18s in there. BMBA teams will compete against other clubs and programs in all of those age groups. Our rep teams by this stage will be taking the floor and participating in their first official rep competitions and season. And the launch of stage 2 development, which is really the most exciting part, is where we develop our own venue to complement what we're doing through the Stonington and Districts Association, developed under the BMBA basketball banner. This will be accomplished through the revenues generated by the above competitions, so the Stonington competitions and BMBA training programs, which we'll explain in a minute. So our goal is in 2 years, is right now we'll have the Stonington established, but we'll be drawing programs from around that area. That's why we call it the Stonington and Districts. The beautiful thing is Stonington Council, the LGA, has no other association for basketball there. We'll be the first one. And our goal will be, so once we've established Stonington, which I'll show you later, the financials, you can make anything between 100,000 and 300,000 in profit per year once you establish it. And that's not including merchandise, camps, things like that. So I'll break those down for you later. Once we do that, that's enough to go and either get a lease at a warehouse, get an investor who will actually purchase the warehouse, and you can then lease it off them. And that way actually would even be better, because if you lease a warehouse, you've got to convert it. But if you can get a new warehouse and get it purpose built for basketball, then much better way of doing it, and then we go from there. But if you could make a profit of 300 grand and put, say, 80% of that back in, so let's say it's 200 grand, over a 2 year period, you're going to have enough to negotiate a lease for a warehouse and then refurbish it so it's a basketball venue, and then you have your own basketball venue. So we'd have Stonington established, and at that point, we would be, say, let's say in Glenora, close one, we would find a warehouse in Glenora and redo it. So rinse and repeat. then you've all of a sudden got twice that revenue come in. So once you've done that, you'll be going into, let's say, Port Phillip, and you might even be able to afford to do 2, one in Bayside. All of a sudden, you've got 4 venues running, and here's where it gets real exciting. So whether other clubs join us or not, it won't matter, because we'll be running our own rep comps between those 4 BMBA venues. Now, other clubs will join, but that's the icing on the cake, other clubs and programs. So let's say in 5 years' time, we might then have one in Kingston, one in Monash, and one in Burundura. And all of a sudden, we're covering the southeast Melbourne. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What do we got there? 7. All of a sudden, you've got 7 venues bringing in 350 to 500 kids. It'll be more than 350 because at Stonington, you're restricted because of court space. And all these other venues, these would be 20-hour space 24/7. So our numbers would explode once you start adding 1 or 2 on. But at this point, in that enclave, we start running our own representative competitions. We'd already be running them, but this would be exclusively between BMBA venues and any other clubs who want to come in. So if we don't have any other clubs, you're still going to have a 7-team rep competition or more, because each venue is probably going to put in 2 teams. We'd also have domestic competitions for those who don't want to do rep, but all these venues would come together at the end of every season to run a round-robin tournament to decide a BMBA overall champion. So you'd have your domestic competition, say, in Port Melbourne. This is the idea. They'd run their season, have their finals there, and then the 2 winning teams would be invited into a tournament which would be held at one of these venues. And that would happen at every one of these. So out of those 7 venues, you would have 14 teams come together and do a knockout tournament over a weekend, and that would decide the broader Melbourne Basketball Association's winner. So there's lots of plans we've gotten in. I know this seems a lot considering we're at 30, but these things can take off quite quickly. And as you grow and as you manage, you can just keep, if you wanted to, keep adding on. So we might go to Yarra, we might go out there, and we would grow from Stonington outwards. All right. So that could be, say, in 8 years' time. By the time I get to 10 years, I'll be in my 70s and I will be handing this thing on to someone else. But that's the idea we want to grow. So for your kids, they can choose to be part of this program, and over an 8-year period. So most of them are 10 now. By the time they get to 18 and they're under 18s or under 20s or starting off in their own open age competitions, which we'll be running, they would have lived the 8 years as we've grown this. It would be really exciting for all of them. I'll leave the Stonington one there. All of that is feasible once we start our own 4-team competitions at Stonington. So we've got to grow our current program. And you might say that's all thing. That's actually a strategic path that you could take. And the first step we've got to get to that amazing scenario is to get an extra 30 kids into our program so we can start 4-team competitions at Stonington. So whether that's an under-12 boys and an under-14 boys competition, or whether we can get an under-12 boys and an under-12 girls competition, that's where we'll be going. So that's the ultimate plan of what we're trying to do with the BMBA. So our first step, and this is where I need the help of our current group of parents, because your kids are going to benefit from it, is to try and get me to get these 4-team competitions up as soon as we can. The sooner we get those up, the sooner we can attract a lot more people into our program. Word of mouth will get separated. We'll secure our space at Stonington. We'll grow that to 300 kids, and then we can branch out like I just showed you. So it all comes from getting an extra 30 kids on top of the 30 kids we've got. So if every person brought in 1 extra player, what I just showed you on that screen then would be feasible. So let's have a look. I'll just get out of this share screen. Still talking to myself. Oh, fun. All right. So where are we? So my next bit, I'm just going to get our stop screening. Sorry, guys. I'm going to get the next one up, which is our BMBA basketball. So our website. So hopefully you've all seen the website. So this is the presentation from last week. We put that up. We'll put this one up as well. And what I want to go through here is don't stress about the investing. I will put a pitch in here in a minute, but you could be putting this pitch to everyone else. But there's some really important parts in here. So on this partners part, we have to get investors into the club to achieve this. So running a basketball association is not cheap, or basketball competition, I should say. So if you've got court hire, you're going to have referee costs, you're going to have insurance costs, you're going to have coaches costs, equipment costs for basketballs, things like that. There's a whole bunch of costs, there's going to be scoring equipment that you would need. So there's all this that's got to go on. So, and also you're going to have marketing costs because you want to get those numbers up. So we, for example, want to do a 10-week promo online via Google ads and Facebook ads. And we want to do twice a year flyer deliveries into every residential mailbox in Stonington. That's not cheap. We're going to find out over the next 2 weeks how much that would be, but we're anticipating that's a minimum of $5,000 each time you do it. I know the online costs will be, we want to be putting in $100 a day on both those. So it's $200 a day over a 10-week period. So that's $1,400 in that week over 10 weeks. So you're looking at 14,000. Okay. If you combine those things in, if we just do word of mouth, we're just going to grow very slowly. We want to get this thing growing as quick as we possibly can. Word of mouth is great, but it can go snail pace. We don't want to be snail pace. We want to get this thing up and going by the middle of next year. So we're looking to get investors on board. We're approaching from investors from outside the club. And we're hoping to raise a minimum of $25,000 for those investors. Now, I should emphasize, if you know anyone in business or you would like to be an investor yourself, this is not a sponsorship. In a sponsorship, businesses give that money into a sports group and they never see it again. So in an investment, they invest into the sports group. We're asking for a minimum of 2 years. And then they get dividends paid on that. And after 2 years, they can either sell those shares back to the company or they can sell them on to more interested investors. So that is what we're looking for. So that should be appealing to anyone who's got a business because they're not losing their money. They'll get their money back or they can keep the investment in the club, have a bit of a say in what we're doing, and then get some money back from dividends. So it's a unique way of going about it. That's why I've turned into a company so we can sell shares and away we go. So that's a quick overview of that. Important we come into this one. This now is not the pitch, roughly. Just give me a chance here. My online. Yes, here we go. So forgetting all this, I just want to bring you down. I'll come back to that in a minute. On that investors pages, so this is the BMBA business shares in offer. The reason I'm showing this on there, we have got 2 business plans. So if I click on this, it'll take you to the business plan for Stonington Sports Centre. So that covers our first 2 years roughly at the thing. So it's like most business plan. Now it's got a bit of information, but so we get to the executive summary. So it's a brief roundup on it. If you're looking for more information, you just simply click on there. Sorry, my internet's a bit slow, but that will take you to, here we go. So 2024 to 2029, executive summary, our goals, all that sort of thing, what we're trying to achieve, about me. So there's your executive summary. You can have a good old read. So some people, the reason we've done it this way is some people, when you do these things, they don't want too much information while others want a lot more. So for the people who don't want a lot of information, just want a brief read, they can go through this. For those who want more information, they simply click on the link on each page and it will give them more. So we want our parents and people within the club to get a bit of an idea about what we're doing, what we're trying to achieve, what we've done in the past. These are 3 of my former juniors that all have gone, not only to play state, but they all played NBL. Sean there on the right, he's playing for the Tassie Jack Jumpers. We've got Owen, who played for Melbourne United, and Corey Maynard, his brother Braden, plays in the AFL. Corey played for Townsville and Cairns in the NBL. There's a few other boys there that we might add as time goes on. Sorry, every time I go back, we get from here. So, that happens on everything. We've got brief summaries here, vision, mission, our values. You want more information, click on there. This covers our business strategy and how we want to build this market. And then it has our market analysis and how we're going to be looking to build the club and our strategy from that. Again, on all those, you can click on every one of those and it gives you far more detailed information, the benefits of why we're doing this, so the benefits for your kid, and the BMBA Basketball Proprietary Limited. And in both, we have the full financials on there. So this is just a brief chart. If you click on there, that should take you to our plans. Now, these are our plans for 2026. Now, basically, we've said term 1, 2026, but you might, for example, we might not start seeing these results till term 2. So we've got to grow the program to achieve what we're after here. So this is term 1, and so we need 20, 40, 50 kids on a Wednesday. So at the moment, we've got maybe 10. We need 20, 40, 50 kids on a Friday, DLSL, 80 kids on a thing. So that'll be probably more term 2, term 3. But once we get those numbers, then these terms follow each other, and the growth goes on there. And then term 3 is when our venues are full. So then we have our yearly totals. So you can go through all these. So that's our profit estimates. That's our turnover estimates. So that's term 1. That'll be term 2. Term 3, it's full. Once it's full, that's the regular income you'd be bringing each and every term. And that would be, once we start that, after our first 12 months, you generate a profit around that, which would be nice. Don't forget, there's a lot of expenses to come out of that. So that accommodates for court hire, referee fees, and coaches, but it doesn't cover for staff for BMBA, which we're going to need at that point, or a bunch of other costs. So, there'd be a bit to come out of that, and that's our total turnover. So we can very quickly go from not turning over a lot to turning over $500,000. And I know that because, again, at Oakley, we went in, this is going back into 2016, we went from a club that was turning over $70,000 a year to well over $500,000 a year. So, and that only took us 4 years to do that. So there's no reason, we're 10 years later, that we couldn't achieve similar results. Now, when you click on that link, if you don't get into that, just send me an email. I can send you a copy of the file if you're really keen on seeing it. So that's the Stonington one. I'll get back out of that. Sorry. So it gives you, and now we have the bigger one. So you have Stonington, you establish Stonington, and that leads to BMBA Basketball Academy and our real business plan, which was accommodating those extra venues. So it's very similar. On each page, there's more information. You can get our goals and things, what we're going over. So it looks similar, but it is a bit different. But the most important one here then is our financials again, because this is where it gets really different. And this gives you a complete set of financials if we were running our own venue. So instead of only being, limited court space on a Friday and Saturday night, we're talking about 24/7. It's our venue. We're running 7 days a week. We can run open age comps midweek. We can run junior comps on a weekend. We can run them on 3 courts from Saturday morning right through to Saturday afternoon. So basically, we become like a normal basketball association, except we're doing it as a company, doing it a lot more professionally. These are our calculations. So we'd have 4 phases, and then we'd have our thing. So this just is how we calculate our fees and our revenue that come in. On sales forecast, this would give you an idea on year 1, how much money we would be bringing in. All right, year 2, year 3, and obviously year 4. And then these transfer across into our balance sheets, but more importantly into our cash flow. So those sales forecasts would generate all of this for our first year. And more importantly, like I said before, these are the bills that we can be expected to be getting. So insurance, public liability, we'd need that. We'd also need insurance for player injury and that when we start competitions. The electricity, water, legal would be a big thing, WorkSafe again. So there's a whole bunch of costs that you'd have to be banking into it. And this is down here a summary of what our costs, GST, BAS, all that sort of thing. Wages, that's going to be a big one, but you're going to need that once we get that big. And then we come across into our report for that year. So we do this for every single phase. And what you would find in our first year, we are going to make a loss of $99,000. But there's good news. this is our marketing plan, basically what we need for advertising. In the next year, that as we fill our venue, that would go up considerably. So this is for 1 3-court venue, which is what you'll be looking to do. So in that year, under reports, if we keep growing like the plan is at Stonington, there is our profit after tax. Again, we would now have 2 venues, one generating, between 100, that's Stonington, 100 to 300,000. Then the next venue is generating 592,000. So well over $500,000 a year. And the goal from the second venue is to generate enough revenue to start a third venue. But we'll go to that. Well, we've already gone over that. We don't need to go over it again. And then we get into year 3. And if we go to the reports there, the revenue now is getting over 600,000. So we're really starting to put some money in the bank, which then gives us the ability to branch out and create other venues. And if you keep rinsing and repeating that, if we got 2 here come the hiccups again. 2 venues outside of Stonington, all of a sudden you're talking about raising $1.5 million per year. Now you've definitely got the funds because you're a company, you can lend, you can do all that sort of thing to start, instead of creating 1 venue a year, creating 2. So that's the whole plan. And I've been going through this now for 35 years at different associations with these financials. So if we can get the numbers up, and because our competitions are going to be better than other associations, they're going to provide more professional coaching, more professional referees. They will be administered better. We know we're going to get a bunch of other clubs that will ultimately start joining up with our competition. So we would have BMBA teams in each of these venues, but you're going to get clubs from those areas also fielding teams in our competitions. And at that point, we'll be really just, having to increase our space and having to increase all those sorts of things. So all that, you don't have to get overwhelmed by it. You can go through those business plans. I'll get back into them. They're all available on the website. I'll put that there because what we need to do to get those 30 kids up is we need those initial investors. And then a lot of this just falls into place after that point. Sorry, I've got to get back to front, guys. So there's that business plan there. I'll get back into our website. So that's the page for the business investors. So we've got 3 types of investors. And this is all on the partner. So you can, if you know of someone, you can shoot them an email, send them a link. So this could be just an individual investor. And if they go on to that, I don't have to give them a spiel. The spiel's already been recorded. And this could be an individual investor, business investor. And we've got a really nice page here. That was how many kids we had at Oakley just for rep teams. So as you can see, it can grow quite quickly. Here's a video from myself, waxing lyrical. And this is what we need to raise funds for. So again, it's in detail. A few quotes. This is what I was talking about before, the Community Forum online newspaper. These are initiatives we'll be doing through the competition. So if you click there, for example, we're going to be doing something quite different to most other comps. By clicking there, these are the 10 great reasons to play. That outlines that. No other competition provides these. So once we do get our competitions up and going, they're going to be fantastic, and a bunch of kids are going to be wanting to join. Just gives it all in detail. The idea of the comps we've got, how we're going to build better communities, how your investment will help the BMBA to deliver exciting new basketball concepts for our juniors. So basically what their investment is going to be put towards. That's just an introduction to me, how to start their investment journey. So it's pretty in-depth. All right, and that's just for individual investors. The business one, the one I just showed you, that's a little bit less because it's not as in-depth because that's got those business plans attached to it. So just to give you a quick look while we're doing all this. Actually, no, I won't. I'll come back to that in a minute. So, and the last one here is if you know someone who just wants to be a sponsor, well, we actually have an amazing offer, not an investor, a sponsor. If they can put in 2 years, but they're not interested in that, they can actually become a sponsor investor where they put in a certain amount of money for 2 years, and then after 2 years and we're generating those profits, they will get their money back. But in the meantime, instead of a dividend, they will be getting sponsorship privileges, so advertising through a newsletter, on the website, all that sort of thing. Businesses who become investors, which is different from a sponsorship investor, get all those sponsorship privileges, but they also are able to be paid dividends. So there's a lot of incentive for businesses, and we call it BSI, to get involved, all right? And that's that community forum here newspaper where we can promote businesses, which I'll take you back into a minute. And because of the community forum newspaper, we're not just a basketball business. We design websites, social media pages, emails, our community forum email newsletter, which can market their business. We can do podcasts and videos, sales funnel, a bunch of IT. So because we're a company, we can provide two streams of our business. One's on the junior basketball side and one is on the marketing and IT side for businesses. So if I go back just in there, sorry guys, and if we go down here, this is the Community Forum online newspaper. So this is the other part of the BMBA Proprietary Limited. And here, as you can see, we write a bunch of stories about businesses right across Southeast Melbourne. And the beauty of it, we do some marketing about the BMBA. And if you go through here, there is a bunch of stories about different businesses and all that sort of thing. So we've got Clubline, Kodu, I can't remember. Basically, sewing. I can't remember the word, but anyway, you can read them all through on there. And we have a bunch of stuff that we advertise to generate more revenue. So we'll be complementing the revenue we make out of the BMBA through the revenue we make out of the community forum. The more revenue we make, the more we can subsidise the cost, which means the cheaper we can make them. All right, so there's spiels there. We've got a nice little promo there for the BMBA, and we'll keep those promos going up as time goes on. And as you can see, there's our share purchase offer. There's other things that we get into. So now we've gone back. And for all those businesses, they get an email. It's supposed to be once every Wednesday. This week we haven't quite met that deadline. But once every Wednesday, we send out emails to 1,300 emails. Out of those 1,300 emails, 1,000 are businesses. And we're hoping to get those businesses to swing in behind us. So whether that's through an investment, a sponsorship, whatever we're doing, and then we can put that back into our general revenue. So that is the plan on the business strategy side of it. I'll come back to our presentation. Where am I? Sorry, guys. Still just got the one viewer, just myself. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. I'll just double check my YouTube. I'm pretty sure there's just the one viewer. Yeah, it looks like that. One watching now, started streaming 42 minutes ago. So, yeah, people, hopefully we'll get to see this. I've got two done. You'll see a difference in the videos because I'm streaming from my downstairs office and I've got an upstairs office, a bedroom I've converted to an office that we put in there. So, obviously, I'm not going to get any questions on what we're doing here. And so you can email those through if you take the time to watch this later. Now, just quickly, for those in regards to wanting to join a competition, if we can form at least two teams, that helps us build. So if we form for example, an under-12 boys team and an under-14 boys team for next term for the Dandenong competitions, while they're playing over there, we hopefully can then form another couple of teams for a comp. And in the winter season, we can bring those two teams together. So they're playing in a Stonington competition, not a Dandenong one, not a McKinnon one, not a Sandringham one, in a Stonington basketball competition. I'm already getting interest from other clubs. Today I met with a guy for the under-12 age group. He wants to organise practice games with us on a Friday night for his group, and he's pretty keen on developing his own program and bringing teams into it. I'm talking to two other guys about bringing clubs into it. Once we have competitions established. So if we can get those 4-team competitions established, you're going to find very quickly more teams come in. So that Dandenong competition is important. Now, for those who go look at the fees, so our fees for the Dandenong competition is $700. Now, for those who pay by term, that sounds expensive. It's actually cheaper than what you would pay if you did 2 terms of training. So all the kids on the Friday night, that they're ready for the BMBA Basketball Plus program, not the Kids First. So they're all going to graduate up into the Basketball Plus program, which means that cost you $275 a term. So if you pay that over 6 months, 2 terms, that's $550. Okay. In the component for the Dandenong seasons, it's $700. So that goes in there. But Dandenong also charge team registration and score sheet fees, which is roughly $100 a week. You get 15 games. That's $1,500 a week. If you've got 7 players, it's over $200 per player, and that's not including registrations. So that in itself, we're discounting in your fees. So there's a $150 component there where it should be $200. All right. So you get that discounted. The other part that is discounted or added is every child that plays in a team is then eligible to have 2 training runs per week. So you can nominate 2 and you can go to those. Now that is what we call our IDP program, which normally would cost you $412, which is half of the $275. So you're saving over that 6-month period $275 just off your training alone. And we don't cover quite the cost. So we're going to be subsidising the cost for team entries and roughly the score sheets to a degree. To give it that a bit more incentive, because we are a company that can offer shares, those who register for this original season, because we understand the strains and all the cost and that, because once we come back and get our teams established at Stonington, we can subsidise that a little bit, make it a bit cheaper. You'll also get 200 shares in. So if you register your child for $700, you're going to get $200 worth of shares there, worth $1 each. So you're getting $200 worth of shares, 200 shares in, and you become a stakeholder in the business. Now, after a period, if you want to sell them back to the company once we're generating profits, that's something we'll certainly accommodate, and away you go. So while you're paying $700 now over the journey, you'll get $200 back, and you're basically paying the $500. So you get a free season at DBA before you come across into us. Now, there could be some of you that say, well, you know, if I pay $700, maybe I want more shares. So you can put in, for example, an extra $300, pay $1,000, get $1,000 worth of shares, and away you go. So there's all those sorts of things we can do now that we're a company, and we can offer you a fair bit of flexibility. Okay, so if you've got any questions, so that's a real rundown of what we're doing. If you've got any questions about any of this, please don't hesitate to send me an email. You can give me a call, but probably better off getting me an email if you can, or send me a text. Emails are far better because we've got a record of it. We can put a lot more detail in there, put the links in there, and I'm all thumbs on the text. So, or even better, we can talk around the courts when we see each other, whether it's at training or games. So got no one else on here. That'll do me for one night, because I need to get my dog out for a walk, and I need to go get some food for dinner. So, yeah, any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. All right, everyone. Hope that helps. Talk soon.